Welcome to episode number 262, where Katie shares her Ayurvedic healing journey. From being really stressed out at work to a bad car accident, how she learned to prioritize her self-care and to accept nurturing, and how it's changed the way she lives her life. So please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening. And now here's a new episode. This episode is sponsored by Kerala Ayurveda. Studying Ayurveda is inherently a healing journey. The Vedic wisdom guides you in understanding yourself so that you can make the most supportive choices each day, from sleep to food, exercise to relationships. For this reason, Kerala Ayurveda calls their programs a healing transformation. You can join for self-development and help others with the program's professional potential. To learn more, visit keralaayurveda.us/courses. And for $100 off tuition, use the code ELEMENTS100 when you join a beginner training. Check out all the details in the show notes. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Katie to the podcast. Katie has been a client of mine for a couple of years now, and she's joining us today to share her experience with Ayurveda. Katie, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, as I said, we've been working together a couple of years now, Katie. I think the first time, looking back at my notes, you got in touch was in October 21. So that was during COVID times.
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke, but then you actually signed up for the group cleanse then. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit. I know you were very new to Ayurveda. So tell me, first of all, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came across or discovered Ayurveda.
Sure. So I am from San Diego, California. I'm 42 years old. I work in healthcare, specifically in behavioral health services. I oversee a variety of substance use disorder treatment program, clinic system here in San Diego. I am married. We do not have children or pets. I love being outside in nature and really embrace learning new ways to take care of my body, my mind, and my spirit. I came across Ayurveda in the spring of 2021. I had actually attended a webinar for work that focused on the integration of holistic healthcare into Western medicine. And it intrigued me. I grew up with my mom taking me to Chinese medicine doctors to treat childhood asthma when Western medicine didn't really seem to be helping. So I've always had that natural kind of proclivity to better understand more natural ways of healing. And at the webinar, they discussed a few herbs that I was familiar with and a few that I wasn't. And so the ones I wasn't familiar with, I wrote down on a sticky. And one of them was ashwagandha. And it stuck out to me. One, I had never heard of that word. And I put it on my desk to research at a later time. And shortly after that webinar, my husband and I went on a vacation. And on our way back home, unfortunately, we were in a car accident that left us out of state with a vehicle that was totaled. I got home, I saw the sticky with the word ashwagandha written on it, and I started researching, just wanting to know, what is this? The more I learned, the more I wanted to know. And through my Google search, the word Ayurveda continually appeared. And that's really how I came across this concept. And really from the get-go, just felt a deep connection to the idea, although I didn't really understand what it was. And so after the accident, the physical injuries had healed, but it was taking me longer than I thought was normal to heal just mentally. My husband and my mom were, I think, worried about me and just didn't think I was really overcoming the emotional trauma of the accident. And through different people at that time, my acupuncturist, my chiropractor, people just started to mention this word Ayurveda. And so I found a practitioner here in San Diego and had a consult. Didn't feel a connection to him. And so I started to research more to find out where I could find a practitioner. And that's how found you. I found your podcast, and kind of the rest is history.
Ah, great. I didn't hear that whole backstory. Now, I did know that you connected with me maybe 3 months after that car crash. Mm-hmm. And by the sounds of it, it was quite traumatic. And I know that was one of the things that, as you mentioned when we spoke, was there was a concern about particularly the emotional, getting over the emotional side of that. And also, I remember you were very busy with work, right? And you're like eating on the go, and work was literally taking over a lot of your life and causing a lot of stress at that stage. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were still very much in the throes of COVID. A lot was changing daily at that point. And I was constantly on the go. I remember having frozen protein shakes every day, every morning. I thought that was healthy. I thought it was good for my body. At lunch, I would run to whatever the closest grocery store was and find a prepackaged salad. And then a couple hours after that, I always had a box of crackers in my office, and that was my go-to afternoon snack. Oh. And at the end of the day, I always felt very drained. I didn't feel well. My mind was all over the place. I did not feel grounded at all. And that stress compounded with still kind of dealing with the car accident, I was just not in a great place mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I recall then when we connected first, like I said, in October 21, when I was helping you and tailoring the group cleanse to you, that in our private consult, I saw a lot of vata imbalances. Of course, that makes sense given the stress of work, the stress of the car accident that just happened a few months previous. And as you described there was a lot of vata aggravating foods. Mm-hmm. So all that manifested in a vata imbalance. And so we had the consultation and I tailored the cleanse to you. And I remember it was all new. So it was exciting that you were learning. And what I think is great as well too, while you're in the early stages of Ayurveda and learning about it, is to go through the practice of something like a cleanse where you can feel the changes in your body. Because I think that helps, feeling it viscerally helps the information sink in and also makes it stick. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that really stood out from that first cleanse was, for years, I had dry skin on my nose, and I was going to dermatologists. I had tried all sorts of creams and lotions and ointments and was going and getting facials, and nothing was resolving the dryness. And immediately after the cleanse in 2021, the dry skin cleared up. And that was really my first hands-on experience of how Ayurveda could really help me in my life.
Yes. Well, that's great. And again, you see that you're feeling these shifts, and then that is really the catalyst to keep these changes in your lifestyle, the changes in diet, the self-care practices. And I know in particular, I wanted to bring in a lot of mindfulness practices for you to help manage the stress. And also you're going through an emotional cleanse as well as a physical one, given everything that had happened in the previous months. And so were you practicing mindfulness previous to that?
I was not.
Okay.
Not consistently. I know the benefits, and I knew it was something I should be doing, but hadn't connected with the actual engaging in mindfulness. And so having the cleanse build that part in for me and almost forcing me into practicing that really helped because I could see the benefits of it. Doing a few minutes of breathing exercises. I mean, there's such a real immediate effect. And so having that experience, I still don't do it great. It's not something I've been able to build into my life every single day. I do it when I'm stressed, and I want to get more into the area where I'm doing it as a preventative measure to help my body and mind. But it's definitely something that is more integrated. And same with the creativity activity. As a child and through my adolescence, I was always really creative and always creating art pieces, and that dropped off as an adult. And so as part of the cleanse, but being encouraged to reincorporate that into my life has been great. I've picked up something I never thought I would do, which is needlepoint stitching, I think is the term. And I really like it. And it's very calming, and it's just something that I had overlooked. And, I'm really glad that that's back in my life.
Yes, I remember having that discussion because I was looking for something to help pacify Vata especially in the evenings after your stressful workday. And I recall asking you about were you creative, and then you brought up that as a child it was something you enjoyed. So I'm so glad that you find that helpful. And of course, when you're being creative, it's almost like a meditative practice for you, bringing you into the present moment, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I am very analytical at times. I can overthink everything. And so having that time to let my mind just wander and do something creative has really been helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. So can you share a little bit, Katie, about your experience with the first cleanse that you did, about your experience in that cleanse?
Yeah, I went into it just having no idea what to expect. Very excited. I wanted to kind of implement everything I had been reading, but it was so new to me that I didn't know where to start. And actually, right before the cleanse, I had purchased an Ayurveda cookbook, and I had made khichdi for my husband and I. And he said, "What are you feeding me for dinner?" And I said, "Eat it. It's really good for you." And it turns out I love mung beans. I mean, I never knew what they were. I never thought I would say that. I eat them all the time, but having the cleanse give me a structured eating routine was very helpful. All of the recipes, everything was very guided. It made it really easy to implement. I was very nervous about the caffeine, cutting out coffee for that period of time. And I actually, since that cleanse in 2021, have not returned to drinking coffee.
Well done.
Yeah, I really am loving teas and matching kind of what my body needs to different teas and seeds. And that has just been something I've really embraced. And the first couple of days of the cleanse, I recall feeling hungry. I didn't think that what I was eating was enough. But after a couple of days, I believe you tailored a couple of minor changes for me. And I finished that week, finished elimination day, and felt better than I had in a really long time. And the week after, adding in new foods and just the spices and the textures of the food that's recommended was really pacifying. I really enjoyed all of it and still cook a lot of those foods regularly.
That's great. And I know at the time you were, like you said, it was a busy time in work, and particularly in the middle of COVID, and you're in the health industry. And so there was, as you said, daily changes happening. And so I just remember at the time being, really impressed with, like, you were really embracing the cleanse and that you're taking care of your health first and understanding the importance of that so that you could be productive in work and so on. And also I felt it helped you find a bit of balance as well with work.
Yeah, it really did. And one other thing that stood out to me, and it still makes me laugh because I walk regularly. I engage in challenges on, different Fitbit applications with coworkers to see who can get the most steps. And
Mhm.
for telling you that, and you asked me if I was walking for myself or for more of a competitive reason. And I said, absolutely competitive. I wanted to be the one with the most steps. I wanted to win. And part of that cleanse week was not engaging in that activity. It was doing more yoga. And if I wanted to walk, it really needed to be thoughtful. And I needed to walk because I wanted to walk, not because I wanted to win. So that has always stuck out to me as well, that I need to check in with myself to see why am I about to do what I'm going to do. Because it's not always healthy to be so competitive in all aspects of my life, which I tend to do. So,
okay, good. So funny. I don't recall that, but I'm glad that was helpful.
it was.
It's so funny how sometimes one little thing can really, strike a chord with you. And I'm glad that, that competitiveness can really aggravate pitta. So that's good that was helpful and that it sticks with you. Great to hear that.
Yeah.
And so post cleanse, you were feeling good. You said you were feeling better than you had in a while.
Yeah. So even though I've been at this now for a little over a year, I still very much feel like I'm in the learning stages. I frequently consult books that I've bought. I do Google searches. I listen to podcasts because I want to learn as much as possible. Learning what causes my body to be out of balance and how to make those course corrections has been a huge learning curve. I love the food and the spices, and I'm really learning that things that I always thought I tolerated isn't so much the case. So now post cleanse, I really make decisions through the lens of, is this good for my body? Is this going to take me out of balance in any way? I'm learning really what my body's reactions are to different foods and spices. And I know the sacrifice I'm making, right? If I want to have a meal choice that I know might not be the best for me, I can make an informed decision. I don't restrict myself from foods, but I'm definitely more intentional in choosing what I'm going to eat. And something post cleanse that also stuck out with me was really the portion sizes. I've never been a big food eater. I still forget to eat sometimes. But just knowing the size of the stomach, for example, the two hands put together is about how much we should be eating, really helps. Sometimes I need to remind myself to eat a little bit more at a meal. And other times it's, I need to be done eating. I've already eaten what should satisfy my body. So that's really where I'm at now, just still very much learning and paying attention to my body and paying attention to how I feel after I eat has been a huge learning curve for me.
I'm going to take a moment out here because if you're listening to Katie talk about her Ayurvedic journey, and in particular her Ayurvedic cleansing journey, and you want a tailored cleanse, well, then you might be interested in my upcoming discounted group cleanse, which is starting January 27th, 2023. Now, of course, you can do a private cleanse at any time and choose your own dates. Both of the cleanse structures are the same. They both come with a 90-minute online consult with me so that I can tailor the cleanse to your unique physical and mental constitution and address any current imbalances. I will tailor the yoga, the meditation, the pranayama, the recipes to you. And you'll also receive access to the private cleanse page where there's weekly coaching webinars which are recorded. There's no live components to this cleanse besides from the 90-minute online consultation with me. Everything else is recorded. There's recorded yoga videos, as I said, pranayama and meditation tutorials. And also, if you're doing the group cleanse, there's an online group forum. If you're doing a private cleanse, you get me one-on-one for support. So in order to check out the cleanse information, you can click on the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. You'll find the group cleanse information under events. Again, that starts January 27th, 2023. And if you want to choose a private cleanse, go to programs and you can choose your own dates. Okay, let's get back to my conversation with Katie. Yeah, that's great. And I love that you say you do not, you don't do restriction. I think that's really important. And I'm always advocating that we should not be rigid about the rules, that it's 80-20, and that I like that you said also that you make informed decisions. So if you are going to go out and have something that's not perfect, that it's an informed decision and okay, I'm going to have this, enjoy it, and then tomorrow I'll get back on track. And I think that's a really healthy way and a sustainable way to live and to make these shifts in your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really loved that 80-20 principle when I heard you mention it. And now I pay attention. If I go out and have a larger meal for dinner, I pay attention to the next morning to see when I'm really hungry, and maybe I'll eat something that's a little bit easier to digest, so that I feel better. And I've also picked up on the fact that I do much better when I eat grounding warm foods, that are more sustainable. I don't love salads, but I've always eaten them because I was told they were, good for me. But now I pay attention and maybe add some good fats and try to eat something warm along with it. So just being very mindful of what I eat has been my biggest takeaway at this point.
And that's huge, because that awareness can really help, like you said, make informed decisions and prevent imbalances going forward, which is great. And then you did a second cleanse, right, in the September, the last September group cleanse that we did together. And that too, there was a bit of a Vata, some Pitta as well, but a bit of Vata imbalance. So what was your experience going through the cleanse now a second time? Obviously, we had to tailor the cleanse to you in this new season and new year, but you had, you understood the structure, you knew what was ahead. How was it going into the second cleanse?
Yeah, going into this cleanse, I was really excited because I knew how good I felt after the cleanse last year. Knowing what to expect, I think, has its ups and downs, because I knew I was going to start eliminating, I don't do a lot of sugar, but, just starting to eliminate some of the processed foods. Just the anticipation of getting to the cleanse week was exciting. I did have different imbalances this year, so the food was a little bit different. I was nervous that I was going to not enjoy the food as much as I did the first time, but because of the slight variations that were made, I enjoyed it equally as well. And just really leaned into the creative activity this year. Found myself, even though it was recommended to do it at night, there were times even during the day or in the mornings, I felt a tendency to want to do that grounding activity. So
Fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed all of it this year, or this time rather. And felt the imbalances that I started the cleanse with by the end of the couple of weeks felt like they were starting to resolve. One of the ones this year that was standing out to me was I was experiencing some hair loss, and that was really scary for me at my age. And I was just wondering what's happening. And that one took a little longer to resolve, but about 6 weeks, actually about a week ago, I really realized that has completely subsided.
Great.
So again, the benefits of just giving my body and my digestive system kind of that time to restart, was really helpful again.
Excellent. And I love the self-care and the awareness of, I need some grounding now. I'm going to do my creative activity. That's, to me, is music to my ears. And you mentioned at the start that your mom and your husband were concerned about you, particularly after the accident and the start of your journey with Ayurveda. And I recall talking about accepting nurturing. Do you remember that?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that resonated with you at the time, or if it did resonate with you?
Yeah, definitely. I think by nature, I'm a caretaker and I want to make sure everybody else is okay, and tend to put myself last in that respect. And so really being faced with the fact that I needed to prioritize my own emotional well-being, and not that I wasn't, but I wasn't quite ready to face, I guess, what my emotions were. I tend to not be very vocal about how I'm feeling. And so really giving myself the space, and I'm recalling a podcast that I heard early on, and it referenced issues in my tissues or issues in the tissues.
Yes.
And that is when I really understood, okay, if I don't kind of digest and really process what happened, I'm not going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding what those emotions were, and I did have a therapist at the time who really helped me to break down what happened and my own feelings associated with, being the driver and what happened, and just really unpacking that and then giving myself the space to process that and come to peace with what happened.
Yeah.
And so that was really a shift because, like I said, I'm not used to I'm good at just pushing things aside, and I don't need to deal with that, and it'll be okay, and I can ignore kind of how I'm feeling or what happened. And so really having a new respect for the fact that when we don't fully digest those emotions, they manifest in other ways. And I think I was seeing that just mentally and physically in different aspects of my life. And so that's been a really big takeaway as well, just fully processing what I'm going through so that I can have resolution and move to the next thing.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate you sharing that with being open about that, because I think a lot of us do that. A lot of us suppress because it's hard to face those emotions, and also life is busy and lots of stressors. And sometimes we just want to suppress and move on. But as you say, it is so important to digest those emotions, because that's consuming a lot of energy, draining a lot of energy in our body, and they are held in the tissues. So it can cause problems further down the line. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really important. And I'm in the helping profession, and sometimes I forget that, there are times I need help too. And so this was just a really good reminder of that. And I grew up, my mom was a big fan of Louise Hay. And so she had a book, You Can Heal Your Life, and it had the linkages in there of physical kind of ailments and what the emotional kind of root cause could be. And so that idea has always been ingrained in me. And I think I had just gotten to a point in my life where I had almost forgotten about that. And so doing the cleanse, coming across your podcast, the accident, all of it was just a really good reminder of how everything is so interconnected. Our physical health is connected to our emotional health and our mental health. And so it was a good reminder for me to have that experience.
Yeah. And in the busyness of life, sometimes things fall off the side, and it's hard to keep everything going. But it's so great that when you really needed it, you remembered all those things that your mom introduced you to. You always had that curiosity, and then it was there when you really needed it. And now you're still on this journey and implementing it into your life, which is fantastic. And so, Katie, can you share with us like how Ayurveda has changed the way you live today, or what shifts you've mentioned some along the way, but what shifts you're really making in your life after experiencing Ayurveda?
Yeah, I would say the biggest shift is around kind of routine and being intentional with whatever the activity is. So before the cleanse, I was often eating in my car, eating on the go, eating during a meeting, eating at my desk, and really learning that even if I can only give myself 10 or 15 minutes of a break to eat lunch or eat breakfast, really being away from the computer, being away from my cell phone, really giving myself time to eat the meal, digest the meal. That has been one of the biggest changes. And of course, there are times I don't do that. I don't do that 100% of the time, but that is something that's typically in my mind surrounding mealtime. Other things that I've implemented are things like tongue scraping and Abhyanga self-massage. Those things I really have embraced and do regularly. And And I am starting to dive more into the learning side. So I know recently you did the podcast on doshas and the menstrual cycle, and I made tons of notes. I have my notebook. I carry it around with me to check myself. Am I out of balance here? Is this something that's recommended right now? So I'm just kind of looking at life through this lens of what's good for me and how will I respond to it.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. It's the awareness, and then looking through that lens as you make decisions in your life and as you experience things in the body, and you have the curiosity now as, okay, what's going on with my doshas? And you feel more empowered, hopefully, as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and things make sense, right? If I understand my dosha, if I understand what the balances and imbalances are, then, and I haven't gotten to do this as easy as I would like. I still have to refer back to notes oftentimes, but it's a guide. It's a guide for how I want to live my life. It's a guide for how I want to feel. It's a guide for if I want to feel better. These are some kind of strategies I can explore. And so it's just really opened up my eyes to how much choice I have and how much power I have over how I feel.
Great. Love it. So, Katie, as we finish up here now, is there any other advice or tip that you have learned on your journey that you would like to share with others?
Yeah, I think just the importance of the gut health. I see this in so many different arenas. It seems to be such a hot topic lately. And I have so many friends, and I see people that struggle with different ailments, and they want kind of a quick fix for their symptoms. And what's really stuck out to me is, this is a lifestyle. It's a way of being. In hindsight, it all makes sense, right? If you aren't feeling well, give your body time to heal, go easy on your digestive system. If I, I need to pay attention to my hunger signs. And so really just understanding that there's no quick fix for how we're feeling or symptoms that we're experiencing, but this lifestyle, once you're ready to kind of commit to it, there's just, the benefits are endless.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking this time today. I really appreciate it. People love to hear these stories, and I really appreciate you being so open about your journey, and just know that it's really going to help others out there. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for all that you do. I really have embraced your support and just really love the cleanse period. And, not just the cleanse, and I didn't mention this earlier, but just the supportive community and the openness. We can ask questions. There's no judgment. It's just, it's a very nice package. And I really encourage people to consider doing the cleanse if that would be a good fit for them.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure to support you along that journey and to watch your, evolution as you go through, and that you're understanding more and more all the time. So well done, you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie. Take care for now.
You as well. Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Katie, and thanks again to Katie for coming on the podcast and sharing her journey with Ayurveda. Please check out the show notes for all the links mentioned in this episode. And if you're interested in my online services, my online consultations, online at-home cleanses, and my educational programs, please click on the link in the show notes also. And don't forget, I have that upcoming discounted group cleanse starting January 27th, 2023. So get on the waiting list for that now and book your 90-minute consultation. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. You can find me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you taking the time. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.